Okay, next we're going to check out MIDI in Reaper. So let's add a piano to our recording. We'll start by making a new track over here, make it a bit bigger. So we're going to set our input to our MIDI keyboard. Right over here, instead of choosing audio, we'll go down here to MIDI. And this is my MIDI keyboard. Yours might be different, but it still should show up here. We'll choose all channels, go into record. I'll play my keyboard, and we can see this level right over here. So I know it's getting signal. Next, we'll put a virtual instrument plugin on this track. Go to the effects and go down to instruments. And I'm going to choose this plugin right here called Piano One by Sound Magic. It's a free piano plugin and it actually sounds pretty good. So let's choose this. And it looks like this. We're not going to mess with any of the parameters. This plugin sounds good right out of the box. Now to hear it, we have to choose a monitoring mode. So if we go over here, right click, we'll choose monitor input. This way when we play it, we actually hear it. Now to make it easier for you to see my keyboard, I'll be using another application called MIDI Keys. Right here. So if I play my keyboard, you'll see what notes I'm hitting. So now let's record a piano part. Now before we do that, let's go to the metronome. Right over here, let's turn it on, and then right-click it to adjust the settings. It's turned on. I'm going to turn it off during playback, and remove the count-in during playback. It'll be on for recording, and there'll be a count-in during recording. But I only need 1 bar for counting. If I go into record, we hear the metronome. So let's record some piano. It wasn't a great performance. I'm not a piano player, but it'll do. So now we have an item based on MIDI, and we could treat it like an item. So we could trim it over here, zoom in. We can split it, move it around, cut it, paste it. Anything we do with an audio item, we could do with a MIDI item. Now to edit the notes, we want to go to the editor. And there's 2 editors to choose from. The first one is right here. We'll right-click, go to Editor, and go down here. Open in the Inline Editor, which we could also open using the E key. So let's hit E, and it changes to look like this. So from here, we could edit our notes. We could select it, delete it, we could trim it, change the length, double-click to delete it. We can duplicate it, Control on the PC, Command on the Mac. To duplicate it. So we could do a lot of things right in this window. We could delete this note right here, which is a mistake, by double-clicking, and it's gone. This one as well. But if we really want to do some major editing, we're going to want to use the other editor. Let's switch this back by hitting E, right-click, go to our editor, and choose this one. But we could also open it by simply double-clicking. Double-click it, and it opens up the MIDI editor. From here, we could do a lot more things. Let's zoom in. We could change the velocity of each note. See how the cursor changes? We could do multiple notes by lassoing them by right-clicking and dragging and grab MIDI notes, change the velocity that way, change their length, double click to delete. We could draw a new note by just dragging right here. That makes a new note. And we could also copy, cut, and paste. Let's select all these, cut them, and paste them over here. We could also see the note velocity down over here. We pull this up. These are note velocities for these notes. This one, or this one. And we could drag these to make them louder or softer. And we could see other things over here. Instead of velocity, we could choose pitch. Any of our controller data can show up down over here. Or we could hide it by pulling this down. Give us more room to see our notes. Now over here, we see our notes. So we can see what notes line up. This note right here is right here. So we can see that this note is a C4 because it lines up. Now the MIDI editor is docked right now. So it's in the same window as this. We could separate it with this button right here. Just hit it. We have a separate window for a MIDI editor. We can dock it again by hitting it again. And it docks back to the main window. And you notice we have a whole different toolbar for MIDI. And we have snapping and a grid that is completely separate from the snapping and grid over here. We could turn this off while this one's still on, or vice versa. And a separate grid as well. So we could change our grid down here. Quarter notes, whole notes, eighth notes. And with snapping turned on, our notes are going to snap to this grid. So if we trim this, now this note falls right in the grid. So we can clean up the performance by putting them on the grid. But a better way of doing it is using Quantize. Let's zoom out, and right here, we can quantize. If we hit this button, the Quantize dialog opens up. But we could also do it with the Q key. Hit Q, and it opens up that dialog. Now with the settings, there's two choices. We can use the grid, so it's going to quantize based on the grid down here, or we can do it manually, which gives us more options. So from here, we can choose what gets quantized, all the notes, just selected notes, and events. And over here, we could choose what part of the note gets quantized. Just the position, or the start and end, the start and length, the end only, or the length only. Let's choose the position and the end. I'm pretty sure this part only has eighth notes in it, so we'll leave this here, but we can change it to 16th notes or quarter notes. But for this part, I think we need eighth notes. It could be straight eighth notes, triplet, dotted, or swing. We could change the strength right here. This is how strong it's going to quantize. So if it's set to 0, it's not going to quantize at all. At 50%, it'll quantize halfway. So if a note is off by 100 milliseconds, it'll move it 50 milliseconds closer, or half as much. But if we set it to full, it's going to fully quantize. All the notes are going to fall right in the grid, or the nearest eighth note. And down here we could choose how the notes move. Can they move left? Can they move right? Can they shrink as far as the length? Or can they grow as far as the length? Most of the time, we're going to want to leave this on. Now, if you notice, as we're doing this, let's change this to 0. The notes are changing on the fly. So we can hear the results without even closing this dialog. And that's because it's quantizing in real time. We're not committing to the changes. In fact, if you look down here, there's a commit button. If we choose this, it's going to commit to what we just did. But we don't have to do that. We could just hit OK, hear the changes, and if we don't like it, go back and change them. Not quantized, and quantized. So we can always go back to the original performance, as long as we don't hit commit. So let's just hit OK. And let's hear what this sounds like. That's a lot better, but the length of the notes is still a bit off. So let's lasso these and stretch them out to the next bar. Make this one longer as well. The same with these. And this one, and these. Now let's hear this. Let's make the melody a bit lower. So we can select these. Bring the volume down a bit. Same with these. Just to make it sound softer. That sounds a lot better to me. Now, besides snapping to a grid down over here, we could also snap to a scale right over here. If we choose this, we could choose the scale to snap to. This song is A minor, so we'll switch this to A minor. And now if we move any notes in our editor, it's only going to move to notes that are in the key. So if we grab this and move it, all those notes are in A minor, so we can't accidentally choose a note that doesn't fit in the key. And it's also great for making harmonies. Let's duplicate this note right there. And we create a harmony for that melody. Do the same for this one. And this one. Pretty cool. And we could also choose chords. Let's undo all that. Right down over here, we could choose chords. We could choose a minor triad. Now only notes in a triad are going to be options. So let's duplicate this again. We made a chord. And there's many chords to choose from. Let's go back to the main window. Now in dealing with MIDI, there's a few different record modes. Right now, we've been using the normal one. If we go over here, recording the input, either audio or MIDI, but there's a few other options just for MIDI. Right down here. We could do MIDI Overdub, MIDI Replace, MIDI Touch Replace, and MIDI Latch Replace. Let me show you those options. Right now, we're using this option. So if we go into record, on top of this, it creates a new item right on top, and it erases the old one. But if we choose the other modes, like MIDI Overdub, if we go into record, it doesn't erase anything. So we can record on top, and it's going to combine both parts. So let's record a part on top. But before we do that, I want to show you one other option. We right-click over here. We can choose Track Recording Settings, Input Quantize. If we open that dialog, right over here, we can quantize on the way in. That saves us an extra step. We could choose it here. We could choose eighth notes, 16th notes, or quarter notes. Let's choose eighth notes again. Now it's going to quantize on the way in. Now we can't undo this, so only use this mode if you know you want to quantize. So let's overdub a piano part on top. Now that part is recorded right on top. It combined instead of replacing it. Let's see it. And here it is right here. And because we quantized it on the way in, using input quantize, it's already in time. Let's check out the other modes. Let's undo that. The next option is MIDI Replace. This is going to replace whatever we record. So if we're going to record, it erases it right in the item. This is useful for doing punches. Let's change our recording mode to Time Selection Auto Punch. And let's select the second chord. Now it's going to punch just this chord. And it's going to replace it right in the item, because we chose this mode, MIDI Replace. So let's punch in, and it's going to keep this and keep this. And it kept the beginning and the end, and just punched in right in the middle. So that's replace mode. So undo that. The next option is touch replace. This is going to punch in just when you play. So whenever you hit the keys, Reaper's going to punch in and replace what's underneath. Very similar to automation mode, where you touch the fader, it records automation, you let go of the fader, it stops. Except it's based on the MIDI keys. So let's do the same thing. Let's punch in that second chord in touch mode. And it punched in just what I played. So as soon as I hit my keys right over here, it recorded. As soon as I stopped playing over here, it punched out. And the last mode is MIDI Latch Replace. This mode is the same thing as touch, except it doesn't punch out. It'll punch in when we start playing, but then it keeps recording even afterwards. So those are different modes of recording MIDI. And I should also mention, if we double click this, go to our editor, we can change what we see. So if we right click over here, we can go to View, and instead of seeing a piano roll, we can see our event list. So now our notes show up as events, if you prefer event list editing. Now one more thing I forgot to mention is we can mute notes one at a time. So let's scroll back over here. Let's create a harmony for this. And let's say we're not sure if we like that, but we don't want to delete these. We might want to go back and use them again if we change our mind. So instead of deleting them, just right click and go down here to mute. That's going to mute just those notes. So now it's not going to have the harmony. But if we change our mind and want to put it back, just right click it again, unmute it, and our harmony comes back. It's a nice feature. So anyway, that's MIDI in Reaper. Let's move on.